When it comes to the Ali summit, because I was thinking about that. It's like, wow, they had all these great men and they stood behind Ali. And I started thinking, could he have done that today? Because Kaepernick went through so much for taking a knee. I can only imagine if a prominent athlete like LeBron or even Jordan, if he was that active, said, I'm standing up for this prominent athlete over here for his choice not to go to war due to his religious beliefs. I'm sure there was some pushback back then, but it's almost impossible to think, even with Lou Alcindor became Kareem, his career might have been totally derailed if that happened today.
Absolutely. And we could talk about Kareem. In a weird way, his career was derailed because he was too good to be shut out of the NBA. I mean, just too good. But why didn't Kareem become a coach? You know what I'm saying? That was Kareem's dream, not to become a columnist and, liberal thinker that he is today, but he wanted to become a coach and he worked to become a coach, and he was never given the opportunity to do so. Something worth thinking about, especially when we ponder Kareem's intellect about both the game and life. The Cleveland Summit is so fascinating to me because it speaks to Jim Brown's power, and it also speaks to what we're talking about, which is that sort of right center wing of the Black Power movement. Because, the Black Economic Union and Jim Brown had a piece of Muhammad Ali's main event contract. And that was obviously extremely lucrative because Muhammad Ali was, emphasis on was, the champ. Then he got his title taken away for the opposition to Vietnam. And a lot of the athletes who'd invested in the BEU were kind of like, what the heck? All he has to do is say, I'll box for the USO tour and wear some red, white, and blue trunks. He doesn't have to go hide under a rice paddy and shoot people. It's like he's Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay. It's what's going on here. And it was Jim Brown, through his, frankly, authority, who called all these folks and said, we need to come to Cleveland and hear from Ali why he is opposing the war in Vietnam and why he is opposing the draft. So you see, that's an interesting twist that a lot of people don't talk about when they tell the story. They make it sound like everybody rushed to Cleveland and said, we're going to stand with Ali. That's not the truth. The truth is, it's like there was a meeting before that famous photo was taken, a private meeting, where a lot of the athletes there, not all of them, because some of them were very much for Ali, but some of them were like, what the hell are you doing? And it was Ali who argued them into understanding that his position was the correct one. And that's when they came out and displayed that incredible solidarity for Muhammad Ali. Now, you ask if that could happen today. And that's such an interesting question because on the one hand, as to state the obvious, one of the reasons why the Cleveland Summit happened, of course, one of the reasons why the Cleveland Summit happened was because you had this broader Black freedom struggle that influenced this idea that we need to come together collectively. But also it's like athletes today, are much more hyper individualized. Like I can tell you something, Kevin, that's a stone cold fact. There was a massive group text among prominent athletes when Colin Kaepernick first took a knee, where people suggested recreating the Cleveland Summit. And it was struck down with the idea that because they said that creates too much pressure to stick your neck out. So instead, what they agreed on this group text, what they agreed on, and I heard this story from someone who was on the text. I'm sorry I can't provide firsthand. I heard this from somebody who was on the text, an athlete, said that they decided, like, if you support Colin, let's all agree that you say so to the press, or we just say we support his right and we support his free speech and all that stuff, but we shouldn't come together collectively. Too bold a move. And it didn't happen. And so that speaks partly to the times of the 1960s, but I also think it really does speak to the will of Jim Brown. Like, he willed that meeting to happen. And of course, having Bill Russell as a partner in the process does not hurt, but it was Jim Brown.